Hi everyone, I want to start by asking you to think back to your favorite memory from high school science class. Please add to the discussion by telling us what you remember as your favorite activity, so we can celebrate some of the great things that have been happening in science classes over the years. For me, I remember going to a pond with a Seshi disc and doing water sampling and thinking, wow, I feel like a real scientist. What do you want your students to remember from your class? I'm going to share a little bit about what I hope they remember from mine. We are at a place in educational reform where science teaching needs to transition. We have a new set of national standards that are definitely more broad in scope. And we have to recognize that our students are walking around with the internet in their pockets, including all of the answer keys to most worksheets, activities, and even many labs. What types of things are you currently doing with students to authentically engage them in the science and engineering practices? Where do those lessons end? Is it with a lab report or a poster? Do they end up sharing their results with a broader audience? I've spent the last 8 years teaching in both the traditional suburban Florida high school, most recently a 7 through 12 military model public school in the inner city of Chicago. I've always been jealous of teachers who have easy access to ponds, wetlands, forests, and beaches, because I remember how much I loved outdoor education in high school. Until I stepped out of my comfort zone just the slightest this year and tried something new, I just didn't think it was feasible for city teachers to plan projects that involved taking kids outside. I was wrong. Now, it might be true that many city kids don't have a strong connection with natural spaces and the outdoors. My own students live in neighborhoods plagued by gun violence, and being outside isn't often thought of as safe or relaxing. But I've already seen a huge transformation in them in just the last 8 months. The transformation's so significant that I felt compelled to share my experience and give some advice on how you can make it happen too. Some teachers may approach hitting all the science and engineering practices through science fair projects. Unfortunately, the days of students creating unique science fair questions and discovering new knowledge are over at many schools across the U.S. And in many cases, science fairs become a glaring example to the inequalities between students of different socioeconomic statuses when it comes to resources, networks, access to equipment, or even parental involvement. Citizen science can be described as the following. In citizen science, the public participates voluntarily in the scientific process, addressing real-world problems in ways that may include formulating research questions, conducting scientific experiments, collecting and analyzing data, interpreting results, making new discoveries, developing technologies and applications, and solving complex problems. There are countless citizen science projects out there, and some are better suited for formal science education, others for informal science education, or even hobby citizen scientists. Many programs are making it easier for teachers to adopt citizen science projects into their curriculum without having to do it alone, which can definitely seem overwhelming. These third-party programs tend to balance the needs of the scientists whose research is being conducted and the students who are participating. The work I've done with my students this year has included a third-party partnership, and their work and support has been instrumental to our success. Working with the Partners in Fieldwork program through the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, they have facilitated much of the work between my freshman biology students and the researchers at the Urban Wildlife Information Network. Along with 10 other Chicago urban schools, we have a camera trap and the students review pictures about once or twice a month and submit their data through a Google form. We then have access to data from all of the schools, providing great opportunities for discussion and research. Our data contributes to studies regarding urban biodiversity, reducing human-wildlife conflicts, and other issues the Urban Wildlife Information Network are studying. Even if a third-party partnership isn't available, there are many citizen science projects that work well in a classroom setting. My top 3 recommendations are eBird, Globe, and iNaturalist. You can access the data your students have input for their research projects, and Globe even offers both in-person and online teacher training. Keep watching for additional time-saving tips for incorporating any citizen science project in the classroom. There's also more information about these and other great projects in the resources QR code at the end of this video. Students can create their own research questions, and if data is entered through Google Forms, it easily exports to Google Sheets. One of my groups of students is studying our large rat population and sent a survey to the other schools participating in the program to find out how far their camera traps were from dumpsters. Another group is using Google My Maps to measure the distance from each school to the primary needs of coyotes, since we got one on camera. The possibilities are endless. I'll admit, sometimes it's uncomfortable as a teacher, not having all the answers. But working with the students as they explore the data has provided the most rigor I have seen in an entry-level high school biology course. The idea of finding extra time or adding one more thing as a teacher can be daunting and probably prevents a lot of us from taking on any additional projects or trying something brand new. I put together a simple Google form with a lab assistant application for my former biology students. I was able to turn most of the back-end work over to them. They help with things like changing the camera trap batteries and SD cards, deleting images that don't contain animals, and entering bird survey data into a Google form. This also took a lot of stress off of me, and I didn't feel as overwhelmed by taking on this new project. Accruing service learning hours has gotten competitive among motivated high school students. By giving these students a chance to work on the back end of the research process, not only does it save teacher time, but it builds marketable skills for them as well. This student has even applied for a teen paid internship with the zoo this summer after volunteering with me this year. There's no denying that taking on a citizen science project that you hope students use for research projects will take class time. The most comfortable way for me to start was by using some of those weird bell schedule days, when you only see a few classes because of an assembly or testing. If you're thinking about starting small before committing to a long-term project, it only takes a few minutes to check out an app like eBird or iNaturalist, or even an online citizen science platform like Zooniverse, which hosts dozens of projects at one time. Using these irregular school days allowed me to still get camera trap data identified and to complete some bird surveys. I realized I didn't have to do the exact same thing with every class. And taking advantage of those odd days where you might have otherwise shown a video is a great place to start without feeling like you're giving up instructional time. The students might end up with results that don't support their hypothesis. It can really make them uncomfortable because they've done so many labs with prescribed results. But having them not know the outcome of their study was so much more exciting than a traditional science fair project, especially at an inner city school with limited resources. They were asking new questions, analyzing data, and then generating new questions. Students can strengthen STEM career motivation through building their expertise and becoming exposed to new professional work. Teachers can easily implement the NGSS three-dimensional teaching model seamlessly into their curriculum through citizen science projects. By applying concepts they learn in the classroom, citizen science can develop a deeper understanding of content as well as critical thinking skills. Let's make the time and rid ourselves of excuses so that our kids remember that project in high school where they got to do authentic investigations via a citizen science project and help scientists solve a real-world problem. Scan the upcoming QR codes to get additional resources for your classroom. Good luck, and most importantly, have fun.